Hey guys, Mr. Yisley here. Just wanted to get started on our notes. Chapter 1 is all about solving linear equations. And linear equations are simply equations of lines. And so you should be familiar with this. You should have seen it either in your pre-algebra class or your algebra prep, depending on which one you've taken. And so we're going to start off with our very basic examples. But first, before we do any examples, let's just talk through the process. So how to solve linear equations. First thing you've got to do is you've got to find your variable. All of these equations will have one variable. Now there might be multiple variables on both sides as we go along, but there's only going to be one variable. So we need to find that variable, all right? And we need to figure out what's being done to it. And when we say what's being done to it, we mean what is it being added to? Is it being subtracted from? Is it being divided, multiplied, that type of thing. Then we're going to reverse whatever those operations are, because addition is the opposite of subtraction and vice versa. Multiplication is the opposite of division and vice versa. So we're going to reverse those operations. Whatever is being done to it, we're going to do the opposite. Now this is where I recommend that we create a to-do-undo list. And I'm going to show you what that looks like just to help keep you in line, because the more steps there are, the more that'll help keep you organized. Then the last thing is we're going to solve the equation. We're going to actually do that. And our whole goal is to get the variable on one side of the equation, or one side of the equal sign, and the number on the other. So we should have just a variable, x, y, whatever it is, on one side of the equal sign, and then we should have a number on the other. And that tells us what x equals, or whatever the variable is equals. So we're going to start off with one-step examples. And so the to-do-undo list will be very simple. It only gets more complicated when you have two steps. So with example A, we have x minus 3 equals negative 5. So first thing I need to do is I need to figure out where is my variable. Well, I see it here on the left side. All right, and now I need to figure out what's being done to it. Well, they are subtracting 3. So if I were to create my to-do-undo, so to-do-to-undo list, they are subtracting 3. Well, in order to undo that, we have to do the opposite. So our job would be to add 3. And the big thing with this is you just have to remember that, and excuse me, make sure you can see that. There we go. You have to remember that whatever you do to one side of the equation, you also have to do to the other, because we have to keep those sides balanced. So if I add 3 to one side, I have to add 3 to the other, or whatever my operation is that needs to take place. So this is what we are actually going to do. We're going to add 3 to both sides. So in order to make sure that I do it to both sides, I'm going to draw a line right down the middle of my equal sign, and that's going to make sure that I do it on both sides. So first thing I need to do is I need to add 3. So I'm going to add 3 right under the minus 3, and I'm going to add 3 right under the number over here. Well, when I add 3 to a minus 3, those really just cancel out. So all I'm left with here is my x, which I'm going to bring down. And then I've got to do my numbers game. Negative 5 plus 3. Well, that's 3 positive, 5 negative. So there's going to be more negatives. How many more are there? There are 2. So I end up with x equals negative 2. And that's how we do it. Now, in terms of what you need to show, all right, when you're doing these problems, all right, I don't necessarily need to see the to-do-undo, though I think it is extremely helpful, especially the more complicated the problems. But I do need to see that you've added 3 to both sides, and then I need to see your final answer. And so my final answer was x equals negative 2. All right, so let's move on to example B and check that one out. So y plus 2 equals 9. Y plus 2 equals 9. First thing I need to do, find my variable. Here it is on the left side, it's a y. Figure out what's being done to it. Well, they are adding 2 to it. So in my to-do to undo list, they added 2, so I need to do the opposite. Well, the opposite of addition is subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So again, I'm going to separate my two sides of my equation, and then I'm going to write subtract 2 and subtract 2. Now, it's really important when you're doing that type of stuff that you line up the numbers. So positive 2 and negative 2. We don't want this negative 2 under the y. That can get confusing. Put it right under the positive 2. Same thing over here. Minus 2 right under the positive 9. So when I do that again, these are going to cancel out. I'm left with just a y on the left side. And then 9 minus 2 is 7. So final answer, y equals 7. Now I can always plug that back in just to make sure it works. So if I plugged 7 in for y, I'd get 7 plus 2 equals 9. Well, is 7 plus 2 9? Yes, it is. So that works and is correct. All right, so let's move on to example C. If you think you can do this one on your own, I'd encourage you pause the video for a moment, try it on your own, then check your work against mine. Well, I'm going to go ahead and move on, though. So first thing I need to do, identify where's my variable. There it is on the left side. It's an x. Figure out what's being done to it. Well, I see that it's over 4. Well, remember, fractions mean division. All right, I'm just going to make a little note right here. Fractions equal division. All right, so we got to always remember that. So if the variable is over a number, that means it's being divided by that number. So in my to-do, undo list, I've got that they were dividing by 4. So I need to do the opposite. Well, the opposite of division is multiplication. So I need to multiply by 4. So there's my step in order to make that work. Well, again, I'm going to divide my equation in half, right? And then I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. So I'm going to simply write 4 times and 4 times. All right, well, when I have multiply by 4 and divide by 4, those are going to cancel out. So if you notice a pattern, whatever was happening always just causes those to cancel out on these one-step equations. And all we have to do is bring down the variable. So I'm left with x. And then I've got 20 times 4. Well, 20 times 4 equals 80. So x equals 80. So again, if I were to just plug that in to make sure it works, I'd have 80 divided by 4. Well, 80 divided by 4 is 20, and that is correct. All right, so example D, I would encourage you to try this one on your own, and then check your answer with mine. Now on this example, I'm only going to show you exactly what you need to show on your assignment. So make sure that you've got what you need from this. You can show more, but you cannot show less. I need to see this minimum. All right, well, first thing I'm going to do, find my variable. I see that the y is on the left side, and then I see that it's got a 3 directly in front of that. Well, if there is no symbols in between a number and a variable, so there's no plus or minus, or it's not over, the variable is not over the number, that means it's multiplication. So I know that because they are multiplying, I have to do the opposite, which is divide. So I'm going to make sure that I divide both sides by 3. Well, again, that's going to cause these 3 divided by 3 is 1. That just causes them to cancel out. So all I'm left with on the left side is y. And then 18 divided by 3, that is 6. So y equals 6. All right, again, if I were to check it, I would say 3 times 6 equals 18, and that is correct. So this is the bare minimum of what you have to show on your assignments. If you show all of this or you show all of that, that is completely fine. If you like the to-do undo, please use it. But it is not a requirement. This is the minimal amount of requirement you have to show to get full points.